You left and you thought that once you were out, it would start to feel better, but it doesn't. You feel stuck, like something in you is just frozen or maybe shattered. And the worst part, you don't even know why, because you've read the books, you've journaled, you've watched all the TikTok videos, you feel like you've got a PhD in narcissistic abuse. You've blocked their number, you're still doing everything right, and yet you feel numb or angry or just exhausted. Maybe you're thinking, is this just who I am now? Broken? Too damaged to ever be okay again? And if that's where you're at, I want you to know that you're not crazy, because this is a really common feeling. So I want to unpack something today that's really important, which is why healing doesn't always start right when you leave. Why you might still feel stuck even though they're out of your life. And how that might have way less to do with your ex and way more to do with what your nervous system learned a long time ago. I'm Lisa Sonni. I'm a toxic and abusive relationship expert. I've spoken internationally on abuse, trauma bonds, and recovery. I've written 4 books and I've helped over 1 million people across my social media platforms. If this resonates, hit subscribe, because I make content to help you understand what really happened and how to start rebuilding. Oh, and if you already know that you're stuck, but you have no idea why, I made this free 2-minute quiz called What's Your Biggest Roadblock to Rebuilding? It gives you instant results. You'll find the link in the description. Okay, so let's get into it. What if no one ever taught you how to actually feel your emotions, only how to shut them down? Like when you were a kid, was it safe to cry? To say, I'm scared or I'm mad? Or did you learn to keep it all locked inside you? If your feelings were punished or ignored or made fun of, mocked, then pushing them down became survival. So now if grief or fear or anger show up after leaving, your body doesn't say, let's feel this. It says, shut it down, push through, don't fall apart. You weren't taught to regulate emotion. You were taught to hide it. So even now, even though you've left, your nervous system is still in lockdown mode. I really want to encourage you to take that quiz that I just mentioned, because it's quick and honestly, it's going to give you words for things that you've probably felt for years, but just couldn't name. So I want to give you a few real world examples of how this stuff shows up. Let's say you had a parent who was unpredictable, warm one day and cold the next. As a kid, you kind of learned to scan the room, right? Anticipate their moods, to adjust who you were in order to just keep the peace. So in your relationship, that shows up as walking on eggshells, feeling like their mood controlled your reality. And now that you've left, you still can't relax. You're constantly on edge. You're waiting for the next shoe to drop, even though no one's standing over you anymore. Or maybe love was something that you had to earn. Maybe the affection only came when you achieved something, right? Maybe you got good grades or stayed quiet or just looked really put together. So as an adult, you overfunction. You try harder and harder to just be enough. In the relationship, you tolerated neglect or mistreatment because deep down you thought, if I just prove myself, maybe they'll stay. Now, post-breakup, you feel completely confused and insecure, because if you're not performing, who even are you? Here's another one. If speaking up got you punished or ignored as a kid, you probably learned that silence is safety. So in your relationship, when something felt wrong, you just swallowed it. You minimized it yourself, you justified it, you just tried to be understanding. And now, even after it's all over, you question if your story even counts. You still wonder if you're making a big deal out of nothing. And these patterns don't start in adulthood. They start when you were a kid, when your survival depended on adapting to the people around you. So now these same adaptations are showing up as blocks to your healing. So let's talk about blame. Even when you know that it wasn't your fault, even when you know they were abusive, there might still be this kind of voice inside whispering, maybe I could have fixed it. Maybe I could have tried harder. And sometimes that voice comes from your ex, but not always. I bet you it showed up a long time ago. Like if you had caregivers who made you responsible for their emotions or expected you to be a peacekeeper in your family, to stay quiet, to behave, you learn early that love comes with conditions. So that same belief, it follows you right into your healing. If this fell apart, it must be because I wasn't enough. Or maybe you're stuck waiting for closure, not just an apology, right? Real validation. You just want it to make sense. You want them to say, I hurt you, yes, and I know that I did. But the truth is, they're never going to. They won't. And it's not just about them. It's about that little version of you that still remembers not being believed, not being protected, not having someone say, You're right. That shouldn't have happened. So your brain keeps looping, hoping that this person, the one that hurt you, will finally make it right. But they won't. Your nervous system doesn't know that yet. You might also be beating yourself up for just not seeing the signs. Why didn't I leave sooner? How could I be so stupid? None of those things are actual reflection. You're shaming yourself. And again, it's not just about this relationship. If you grew up in a home where you had to ignore your gut to stay safe, like if you were told that you were too dramatic or too sensitive or wrong for speaking up, you're just a kid, don't talk, then of course you didn't trust yourself in this relationship. You weren't blind. You were actually trained to abandon your own knowing. And now you're blaming yourself for something that somebody else broke. Another block that I see all the time, it's isolation. You try to talk about what happened. People say things like, well, at least it wasn't physical. You should be glad that it's over. But they don't see what it did to you. The confusion, the self-doubt, the walking on eggshells and managing somebody else's mood. And it's because abuse is invisible to them. So then now you feel like you have to keep it invisible too. If you grew up being told not to make a scene and not to talk about what happens at home, not to make people uncomfortable, directly or indirectly, then even now in your healing, silence is going to feel safer than the truth. Maybe the hardest part is this. You don't know who you are without the pain. Maybe you've built your identity around surviving or fixing. And now that the chaos is gone, you feel lost, like you're floating with no anchor. If your worth was tied to how much you could go through, how much you could endure, how useful you are to other people, peace isn't going to feel good at first. Maybe it'll feel empty or boring or terrifying, but you are not broken. I would say you're unpracticed. If nobody's ever taught you how to exist outside of something that feels like a crisis, you might also feel just emotionally drained. I know I did. Even though you're not in it anymore, it's still, somehow you're still exhausted. You left, but your body didn't. So you're still tense. You're still kind of scanning for threats, bracing for something bad to happen. So now that it's safe, you crash. And it's not failure. That's literally what happens when the adrenaline just runs out. It's not weakness. Consider it your body sort of exhaling. And then there's the fear of messing up again. You don't trust yourself to rebuild. Every decision feels terrifying, right? Like you're going to fall back into the same trap. Like you're going to go date, meet someone else, and it's all going to happen all over again. So if you were never allowed to make mistakes growing up, or you just had to grow up way too fast, self-trust can feel like a gamble. I get that. That doesn't mean that you're doomed. It means that you're just learning how to be safe with yourself. If this video helped you name some of what you're going through, hit like, share it, and hit subscribe. If you're ready to name your biggest roadblock, the one that's quietly kind of running the show, I want you to take that free quiz below. It just takes 2 minutes, and it's going to give you the clarity that you've been searching for. You don't have to earn peace. You don't have to be perfect to start healing. You just need to understand what's been really holding you back.